Hi, I'm Phil Reynolds, CEO and co-founder of DevStride, and today I'm excited to share with you the tool we've built to help dev teams manage complex initiatives and deliver on time and on target. DevStride is a work management tool, fundamentally kind of like Jira, Azure DevOps, Linear, or Monday, but those tools all focus very squarely on team-level activities. When you're working within a single group of maybe 5 or 10 people, you have a backlog you're trying to keep track of, what's assigned to who, when we're planning to do it, what status all of the different work is in, those tools excel there. However, they start to really fall apart as your team scales up. You start to have bigger and bigger initiatives where now you don't just have one team working on a goal, but maybe you have 2 teams, 5 teams, 10 teams, all working in parallel together to go deliver on a big complex generational upgrade or a customer rollout of some sort. And when that happens, those tools fall over. That leads you to then go out and buy other layers on top of your team level tools. So you buy things like advanced roadmaps or Jira Align or Gantt, things like that to help you manage complex delivery initiatives. And what you end up finding is that not only is it very, very expensive to add more layers on top of your team level tools, but now you're multiplying your admin and your permissioning, and it gets really hard to know where to go find things, and nothing is syncing as well as you hope. What ultimately happens is people get frustrated. And when they get frustrated, they stop using the tool and they go back to spreadsheets. And that is tremendously problematic for you, the person managing the ultimate delivery commitments, because now there are black holes. There are holes in the data, there's holes in the roadmap, there's holes in the dependencies, and you start losing visibility. And all of a sudden, it's very easy to accidentally make commitments that aren't sane, that don't really total up to anything. DevStride solves this problem. It is an all-in-one tool that helps dev teams plan, execute, and measure progress and performance across a broad portfolio of work in order to deliver complex initiatives on time and on target. DevStride is for you if, number one, you manage technical delivery. It's a tool very, very focused on technical teams, IT teams, software teams, professional services and consulting, anyone who's in really just a knowledge work sort of field, that's who the tool is designed for. Number two, if you coordinate across multiple teams. So if you just have one team at a time, you can use Trello, you can use Jira, you can use some team level tool and get your job done well. It's at the point that you start having 2, 5, 10 teams that you're coordinating across in order to deliver on your targets. That's when DevStride becomes really tremendously valuable. And number 3, and this is the most important, do you own critical milestones? Do the dates really matter? So if you have sort of contractual, financial, or regulatory commitments, you just can't afford to miss your deadlines. And once you can't miss your deadlines, it's critical that every team that's contributing to the work, that the plan sums up to something that makes sense. So now you need roadmaps that span 2, 5, 10 teams, and that's when DevStride really steps in to fill a critical gap for you. So if all of those things are true in your organization for you, then DevStride offers project and portfolio management for critical delivery initiatives targeted specifically at your use case, and I'm excited to show you the key capabilities we offer to make you awesome at your job every single day. All right, let's go. First up, let's talk about Kanban boards. Most modern dev teams are comfortable working in a Kanban style where you put your work into cards, you move cards left to right through lanes in a Kanban board to quickly visualize all the work that is in progress for a particular queue. DevStride adds a few key features that make it more suitable for scaling teams to manage their Kanbans. The big one, we have hierarchy built into our Kanban boards. So not only do we give you a flat list of Kanbans, we actually let you model out all of the different working queues in your organization and then keep track of how the work in those different queues relates to the work underneath and above it. So for example, I could have here 4 divisions in my company. The product division itself has a Kanban board for managing its objectives. Underneath that, then I have 2 products, a DevStride product and a Philo product. The DevStride product itself has both its own backlog and then all of its work. So every 84 days, I'm accepting a list of features. At the product level, I have individual engineering teams underneath the product. For example, I have this web dev team right here. I can see in its sprint cycle, in this 2-week Kanban, all the different stories and defects that it's picking up. So keeping track of the hierarchy of the division that breaks down into the product, that breaks down into the team, I can go to any level of the hierarchy and rapidly see all the work in process. And I can give you summary and roll-up reports that are really useful for helping you balance out capacity and make sure that your flow is steady and consistent at any particular level of your organization. We've also added support for things like WIP limiters. So if I set up a temporary WIP limiter for my company of one item inside of my default board, I go over here and I take this guy and I drag this one into review and this one into review. There are now two things inside of this lane, and that exceeds my WIP limit, and that triggers both a visual indicator and can fire off an automation and a notification to managers to say, hey, you've got too many things piled up in a lane right now that need to be reviewed. We don't want that much work in this particular lane in this Kanban board. The other big thing that we've added into the system is the ability for you to track cadences. So if you do cyclical type planning for a system like Scrum or Scaled Agile, you're going to have cyclical based capacity planning where every time box, we're going to accept a certain amount of work and we're going to measure our flow rate from time box to time box to time box. Well, DevStride gives you the ability to set up a master calendar, push that calendar out, and show sort of how all the work in any particular queue rolls up to work in the rest of the queue. So you'll see, for example, I can say this product group right here is working on the program increment cadence for every 84 days. We get a new Kanban board, and that breaks down into my web dev team, which is working here on a sprint cadence, which says every 2 weeks I get a new Kanban board, and all of that is perfectly aligned and organized and summarizes and rolls up in your reports for you just the way you want. So again, our Kanban boards support hierarchy, we support WIP limiters, we support recurring cadences, and that brings me to one of my final favorite features, which is the matrix view of a Kanban board. So I can, for example, go into this product group, open up PI 14, and see not only the sort of card view of the PI board, but I can also see this matrix view where I give myself an X and a Y dimension. In this case, I've said, show me the priorities as the rows, show me status as the columns, and now I can see sort of how all of the work is distributed across normal, medium, high priority, and what work is in new and in progress and done. And I can even see all the dependency lines, all the external dependencies, and it just makes it really clear for me to have a rapid mission control kind of snapshot of how is work distributed across the board. And if you look over here on the left, I even can see the summary of how many hours have been committed, how many hours are estimated, how many people are working on it. It's just a really powerful mission control view. Next, let's talk about Workstreams and the Agile hierarchy. When you think about the work going on across your portfolio, the most important thing is that you're delivering value to your key stakeholders. And that's where an Agile hierarchy can become really helpful. DevStride offers item types, which are a separate hierarchy that keeps track of units of value you're going to ship to key stakeholders. So for example, we offer multiple solutions. Our solutions are composed of multiple epics. Epics are composed of features, and features are composed of user stories and defects. But of course, you might have an operations group, and that operations group doesn't really utilize solution epic feature and story. Instead, they use something like initiatives that break down into objectives, that break down into tasks. And DevStride lets you model those hierarchies in parallel next to each other. And as you build those out, you're able to house those in this portfolio map. The portfolio lets you start out by building out work streams, and work streams are simply perpetual long-running streams of work. So for example, your organization might have a function called product, a function called revenue, a function called admin and compliance, and admin might be made up of security, product documentation, meetings, G&A, board governance, finance, while product is made up of things like here are the modules that we build. And once we get to these modules, now we're thinking about units of value that we're shipping. So at DevStride, we built a module in our software that I just demoed for you called Boards. So Boards is a solution within our larger overall product. And if I open this up, there's documentation on Boards, and I can see all of the time that's ever been spent on this item. Then within Boards, it decomposes into multiple epics. These are large units of capability. Underneath that, I might have something like the hierarchy to Boards that I just demoed for you. Board hierarchy, that epic was delivered over 4 primary features. And if I click into one of those features, then I can see all of the user stories that went into each individual engineer building all of these things out. So this workstream map gives you the ability to house work in a completely separate construct from the unit of execution. This is a unit of value. Now, why is this so important? Well, you have key stakeholders who will come along and you may sign a contract or some sort of service agreement where you agree to ship the board hierarchy as a new capability.
these features might be being picked up by 5 or 6 different program groups, and all of these stories might be farmed out to 50, 60 different engineering teams. And you don't want to go hunt and peck in a bunch of different Kanban boards trying to reassemble some picture of what's happening with this board hierarchy epic. All you need to do in DevStride is simply click on board hierarchy, and you can immediately see underneath this, here's the epic, here's all the time, here's the work that's been completed, here's all the features, 4 out of 4, here's all the defects, here's all the stories, 41 stories underneath this. And you can rapidly see the aggregation of all the work happening in all of these different Kanban boards over here, but summed back up instead of through a Kanban lens, instead of through the unit of execution, you can see it summed back up through a unit of value delivery. So it's a dual hierarchy system. Kanban boards for who's working on what, in what order through this hierarchy right here, and then work streams to keep track of, but what value are we shipping to customers, and how does all of that get reported back? And of course, every report in DevStride lets you report by Kanban board if it's an execution-based report, and by work streams and item types if it's a value delivery-based report. There are additional features built into this. For example, I can set up a filter to say, only show me all of the items in here where the priority was, for example, critical, and let's say the item type was a defect, and immediately the entire portfolio is filtered down to only places where we've had critical defects, and I can then go and look at different trends and reports and things like that along these lines. This screen also does 2 other things that are really, really important for an organization that is trying to do large-scale work. The first one, you're able to come in here and you can import or export any of this work as a template. So let's say you have some sort of a DevOps framework that you want to repeat every single time, or some SOC 2 compliance activities. You're able to build out a template and a framework for all the different items that need to go into that activity. And then in one single click, go in and say, I want to export that as a template. It will export it into an XLS file for convenient editing and variable imports and all sorts of introspection. And then you can go into any other point in time and import that template for a repeatable workflow that happens over and over and over again. So DevStride makes it very easy for you to repeat processes on a consistent basis. For example, implementations that you want to repeat over and over and over again. Another major feature that's going on inside of this system is that we have hooked all of this into integrations. I can click on any of these integrations and authenticate that solution back to DevStride. Once I've done that, every project that is in Azure DevOps, Jira Data Center, there's a range of these, will show up here in a list. I can open them up, and then we actually use AI to infer all of the data mappings between a system like Jira and a system like DevStride, and all of the data that shows up in a Jira project or an Azure DevOps project will automatically import into this workstream map so that I get eyes and ears and visibility on everything that's happening in these other remote systems, making DevStride an incredibly powerful tool for aggregating work that's maybe happening in 3 or 4 Jira projects, 1 Jira Data Center project, 1 Azure DevOps project. You want to bring all that back together for a sane view and sane management. DevStride is the perfect clearinghouse tool for you to manage that diverse work and do it in a sane way. And again, every report in DevStride is immediately available for all of that work that was actually occurring in a point solution like Jira, ADO, or Jira Data Center. Now let's explore where all of this value really comes together for superior deliverable control, and that's in portfolio level Gantts. DevStride offers fully integrated Gantt charts. Inherently, our Gantts have access to every single item in our work streams, so it's very easy in DevStride to build timelines and roadmaps that span multiple teams, multiple projects, dependencies that are in remote areas of the company. You can map all of that out very quickly. And even if you have a very simple Gantt chart with a simple project or a very complicated Gantt chart for a very large project, we make it fast and easy to represent timelines and control the dates. Here's how it works. It's very easy to add things to this Gantt by going up to Add Gantt, and I can import anything I want from the rest of my portfolio. So for example, let's say I was bringing in all of the work from building out Kanban boards that I've been demoing already, and I select this item right here. I can add this, and immediately the system will bring in that solution level item as well as all of the children underneath it. And I can see all of that work, and I can continue to drill into it to see all of the various things that have occurred in time and where all the stories occurred and what the dependency chains were. So this is a big complicated Gantt. Frequently though, you just want to represent a critical path for a relatively small body of work. Here I've imported one that is a very small project that's happening inside of our company right now. And you'll see that there's sort of 4 initiatives occurring. And if I open this one up, I can see here's the exact work that's occurring inside of this team. How long has it taken them? What was the dependency chain for these things? And then you'll see that these 2 items are red because they're actually overdue. So it's very easy for me to click on this, go in and see, okay, the item is past due. March 27th was the due date. Our time is 118% above range. Why is it due? Well, it's very quick for me to know that. It's sitting here in review. So the person that I want to go talk to about this isn't the person who wrote the code, it's the person responsible for the review of the code. Very, very quick, very easy to see what's going on here. Now, let's say that we had sat down initially and made some sort of a commitment to a customer about this particular timeline and roadmap. I could go in here and I could say initial plan and stamp a scenario really quickly. And in storing this scenario, I'm snapshotting what was true at the time we made the commitment, okay? Now, I save it. The scenario is in here now. And then I can come through and I can say, okay, real time occurs. This is overdue. It was supposed to be done in this sprint, but obviously we're already off into this sprint, so that's not going to happen. And I can open this up, and for example, I could say it's not going to happen in sprint 14.2. It's actually going to happen over here in sprint 14.3. So let's open up sprint 14.3. And inherently in doing that, do you see how the timeline automatically moved in the Gantt? And that is critical. I didn't have to go to the Gantt and manually move the thing around. Simply the Agile team moving it into the appropriate sprint automatically offsets all the dates appropriately the way it's supposed to. And then it shows me clearly that now my dependency is out of alignment. My critical path no longer makes sense. I could also go in here and look now. When I go back to talk to the customer and I say, oh, things changed, things didn't happen the way they were supposed to, I can come back in here. I can set up my original plan as a baseline. It'll show me the offset. And it even adds columns here to say, okay, because this occurred, there's a 10-day delta between the initial commitment and where we are right now. So it makes it very fast for me to go through and show various scenarios. I can store as many of these as I want. I can come in here and I can move this around. And for example, I can take it out of linked mode, move this back to where it originally was, put it back in linked mode and say, okay, what happens if I take this and I say, oh, it's all going to be late and this is the dependency chain. It will automatically move all the dependencies with it. And then I can also, in this scenario, move them back. So there's a push-pull methodology. There's an automatically sync to my Agile Cadence methodology. And in all of it, it's always showing me how everything sums up to my critical path, my ultimate milestones and due dates, with progress bars that fill in. It's collapsible, so I can only show the level of detail I really care about for the particular stakeholder. It's just an awesome and incredibly powerful tool for managing timelines and roadmaps that always stay in sync with your Agile plans. And that's the key. Your commitments to clients will always be sane with your Agile plan. The last major capability we'll talk about is reports. Reports are really where you complete the picture of managing a dev team end to end, because sometimes things do go wrong. That's where progress, flow, and performance analytics become very critical. And you'll see here on the left that we've provided out of the box access to all of the standard reports that an Agile team uses to manage their performance and their flow rate. For example, show me how everything is going on my same boards module that I've been showing so far. And I can see that 192 items have been completed on that. 0 items are outstanding. So we know that we have completed all the work that we ever accepted for the boards module. What if I wanted to see how that work has trended over time? Well, I can click on the trending progress report and I could expand my date range out. Let's say, for example, from 1/1/2021 all the way through to today, apply the date range, and you can see when all of this work was done on this particular module. It's very, very clear when we got the work done, when we were being productive, when things were stalled for a little bit. I can also do things like look at my cycle time. What was the sort of average lead time? And you'll see that when we very first started this work, a lot of unknowns existed. And so we didn't really know how long things would take and things were going slow. And as we found our pace, we found our stride, we got faster and faster and faster at doing the work. And it's a fantastic way for me to go in and evaluate, are we delivering the kind of performance that we expect in this particular project? Of course, I can also do things like zoom in instead of to a project. I could go in here and I could say, show me a cumulative flow diagram and pull it for, let's go grab, for example, in my product division, under the DevStride product, let's go down to my PI9, show me all of the features. What status were they in week over week? How many were done? How many were in progress? How many were under review? And you can see here a very healthy graph that shows that we were making steady progress over this PI. But of course, if there was an issue, and actually there is something kind of odd in here, I notice that the top line is going up. I can go into my burn up chart and I can see, oh wow, under this dotted line, the team is accepting more and more work. Why did they do that? Well, because they could clearly see here that we were going to get more done than we expected. We were maintaining really great velocity. And so they accepted more work and they managed to complete all of the work that they accepted. So this is a healthy graph in my particular situation. DevStride offers you the ability to go surgically zoom into a project, a team, an individual, an initiative, anything you want, and evaluate whether or not we're delivering the performance, the flow rate, the progress that we expect. And all of that, again, is built natively into DevStride out of the box. As you can see, DevStride offers powerful tooling to help you manage your engineering team at scale. We offer boards that support execution hierarchies, Workstreams and items that help you manage shippable units of value, Gantt charts for protecting roadmaps and timelines, and process and flow analytics to make sure that your team is operating at its absolute fullest every single day. We look forward to visiting with you and can't wait to serve your organization.